following the activities from 2012 or 2013 and many others. It's exciting, and I see you do, and the rest of the team at the Judicial Service. Thank you very much for this copy. We'll keep it and guard it closely. Also, a big fat happy birthday to the Honorable Ken Jirasa, the former Speaker of Deputy Speaker of Parliament, a lawyer, politician, former Member of Parliament, and still a journalist and a writer. Honorable, happy birthday to you. Live long and stay strong. The Honorable Ken Jirasa. Also, you shared a day with Mr. Koku Anyidoho. Incidentally, you're both Wednesday borns, and happy one to you as well. Good morning to you, Caroline Kidisu. And we'll connect on Zoom with the head of the History Department of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, Dr. Edujemfi, is joining us now. Doc, thank you very much for your time. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year, my brother. I hope you are doing great.
I am alive and well. Good to see you in high spirits one more time.
I'm excited to be here too, and trust that we are going to do great this year.
Your students are coming back to school. Prepared? Not prepared? What's the story?
So certainly they are in. You know that the first years are already in. We've always been prepared. Remember, at the heat of the COVID, within the heat, Ghana was still able to go through. As a people, the social capital of Africans, we've overlooked that in spite of the challenges that we are bracing ourselves for. We anticipate that the citizens, i.e. the students and the lecturers, as well as administrators, will be committed and to ensure that they give their best so far as the seasons and the times are concerned, and to make sure that there is the element of self-discipline to follow all the protocols that are set by the state and also by the international organizations. Remember, when I touch on social capital, what I mean is that the resilience of the African, the capacity of the African to go through challenges, the robustness of the African personality and the African individual cannot be overlooked in our contemplation so far as infections, epidemics, pandemics are concerned. I trust that the country itself, having come thus far, really we understand as an institution, especially University of Science and Technology, that we need to observe the social distance and we need to observe the use of technology to hasten and also better still accentuate our gains that we have made thus far as a university. Know that we are the best in Ghana now, and the entirety of Africa. We are not doing bad at all. In West Africa, we still lead. And so we understand that the world is looking at us. Ghana is looking at us. The need for us to put up our A game to ensure that we do not only protect the students that come in, but also we are able to deliver the kind of academic excellence that is required of us. I do not speak in the capacity as the representative of the university, but I speak as an intellectual. And I believe that we have the, if you like, a serious responsibility to make sure that we protect ourselves and the students that are coming in, and also be able to deliver academic excellence and quality. And I think that these are the issues we are faced with. It also comes on the back of the first batch of the free senior high school education. You might want to read my paper on with my colleagues on the quest for quality at in the university on the back of this free senior high school. Our recent research, which came in somewhere last year. In fact, we argue in that paper, among other things, that it is not everyone who is meant to be in the university. However, we understand that literacy is very important. Within the university setup, the teacher as a facilitator, the teacher as a mentor, the teacher as a manager, among other things, must be seen within the scheme of things in ensuring, in our discussion around the quality melting pot.
I see.
But within the scheme of things also, we need to see a kind of agency from every quarter i.e., we need the students to be committed to studies. We need to use all the necessary infrastructure that we have, and also the training and the skills that we have to support our students to get up there and to do their best. It will be contingent upon both intrinsic and extrinsic, if you like, or inherent and extrinsic motivation. Inherent in the sense that in our contemplation, we believe that people who enter the university to teach are there because it is in the first instance their passion and their calling, and also desire to want to be there. And so, apart from fiscal or financial motivation, among other things, the university teacher is inherently optimistic, charismatic, committed, and disciplined to want to deliver home the public good. The external, if you like, motivation comes from the agencies of state, including administrators who have hired the university, if you like, teachers, to want to do everything possible to inspire and to motivate them to ensure that they are able to get the kind of results that they are contemplating. So the first batch.
You mentioned that you want your students to be committed to their studies, which is very integral part of the formation program or process for them. Now, I'm sure you do know that accommodation has been a big challenge for most of the first years who are entering. I remember that the Professor Yanka committee was put together by Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo to look at how to inject all these free SHS graduates or leavers into the tertiary system. For you, where you sit as an intellectual head of a department, I'm sure you've heard stories and concerns about some of your first years not being able to get accommodation. How do we put the two together? They wanting to be, or they have to be committed to their studies, but they don't have a good place to sleep, or they don't have a place to sleep at all. The peace of mind to pursue academic excellence, where is it?
We have. Remember, more so, here too, I speak on authority. If you can read on our work in somewhere 2014, accommodation reforms in Ghana, a focus on Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, myself, Ibrahim and Eileen Lamte. We touch base with the need to continuously build on the kind of infrastructure that will support accommodation, especially to accommodate our students, and to make sure that there is a kind of synergy between housing and also academic performance, among other things. We, if you like, enumerate and also list the kind of efforts that Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology in particular has undertaken or gone through to ensure that it adds on to the numbers, i.e. the infrastructure that will support teaching and learning as well as accommodating students. It is important for me to state emphatically that KNUST has continued to add on its infrastructure, and countrywide, I think that it has done extraordinarily well. It is also important that if you look into the literature and the works we have done and what is on the ground, there's been a synergy between the private sector and the university, because we have come to understand that there is a need to have that synergetic relationship between the private sector and the government, as well as the institutions of learning, to be able to provide some of these things. The Dean of Students Office, among other, and here I still speak as an academic, not as a rep, even though you referred to me as an HOD, which is the truth anyway. But I speak as an academic, and
right.
If you permit me, I would.
Doc, you'd have to sit up a bit because we can't see your lips. Yeah.
Okay. Can you see me?
We can see you now. Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Right. Yes. So on this note, you see that year in, year out, we've added on to infrastructure. I'm sure you have seen our new Faculty of Social Sciences building. Right. Just a grandeur of architecture, right? So we've added on, here and there, in terms of even housing within the university. But beyond that, the private sector is contributing through hostel, and the Dean of Students Office is in close proximity with them, i.e. there is a kind of relationship between them and those who own the hostels. And largely, a large sector of those numbers have been added on. And when our students come in like that, I mean, there's always the effort to make sure that if they don't have housing on campus, they have proper housing outside of campus. And these housing, the owners of these facilities, as well as the administrators of these facilities, are closely, if you like, they are always in close discussions with the university, and the university have them on record. To that extent, any contract they enter into with these students and their parents, the university is not left at the periphery. Any challenges the students meet whatsoever, the Dean of Students Office, among other related offices in the university, make sure, including academic affairs, among other sectors, including the Registrar's Office, plays significant role to make sure that students are taken care of, even outside of our campus.
So if I get you,
I should say,
right.
I should say,
go ahead.
That yes, I mean, you would not have a perfect system anywhere. The challenges here and there would arise, but then you know that university education as well as university administrators would always have to be apt and also come to the table to make sure that no matter the challenges whatsoever, we are able to pull through to give.
Is it your view,
options.
Dr. Duje, is it your view also that as a country, perhaps KNUST may be showing the way, adding on to the infrastructure year on year in anticipation of the numbers that you're getting? At the last WASI, we saw over 375 candidates who had sat for it. Even if some failed, we can't get less than 300,000, plus those who had tried to apply in the previous years and weren't getting matured students and all of that put together. We're going in the large numbers, 800,000, maybe more. Is it your view that as a country, our universities perhaps have sat, our academic authorities, our Ministry of Education, Ghana Education Service, have sat so on the matter such that this has become an annual ritual where students go to school but can't find a place to sleep, and they are tempted to perch?
The perching, history has been there for some time. That's why I referred to our paper in 2014. I mean, the perching issue started when at least we began to have large numbers coming into the university.
Should students be perching? Should students be perching to learn?
I'm coming. I'm just adding, and it is illegal for any student to perch. That is the point I'm making.
Right.
From time to time, like I said, the universities have made available options for students, and so perching remains illegal. And so we use the term. It's a cliche on its own, and we should put it at where it belongs. To that extent, we should agree that no university authority sign onto or warrants perching within the institution of learning. And so that term, even though subsists, right, it is alien to the structure and the practices of our university officially and administratively. And so we must jettison it and place it at where it belongs. Having said that, I agree that there should be that robust effort, both by the universities and by government, to make sure that we really expand the infrastructural base. KNUST has done well. Others are learning from our example. But I believe that there is still more we can do as institutions to make sure that we leverage looking at the kind of numbers and the changing times. So it is important we look at that.
Okay.
But I dare say there is a need to continue to build on the kind of synergy. The private sector, all students or students who have graduated from these universities can team up with the administrators and begin to look for new pathways to add on to infrastructure and also to add on to those facilities that will support.
What should the national blueprint to solving this problem be like? The national blueprint that we won't have people go through basic school, go to secondary school, they have accommodation in their secondary schools, or maybe not. They get to the university and they have to be running helter-skelter. looking for it. I've been on the beat since Monday. Students are queuing up, checking, balloting. Some are not getting, and you could see the resentment and frustration on their faces. Where is the blueprint?
Where have you been the past week?
I've been to Legon. I've been to the University of Ghana, Legon. Last year, I was there. It's the same thing. We're on KNUST campus as well. We're at
I am on KNUST campus.
We're at UDS as well.
We don't do politics. We don't say it is in the pipeline. We deal with the realities.
What should the blueprints look like?
Yes, I think clearly what we should be looking at is a kind of national consensus where we know that with the free senior high school, several people who hitherto did not have opportunity to go to school because they could not afford are in school. And the university itself has certain policies, for example, for less endowed schools, among others. So if you look at it from mature students, from those who are qualifying from the pool that are entering secondary school, then the number is likely to jump. I wouldn't say a kind of arithmetic progression, but at least it will jump. And such leap requires that there is that kind of swift action on the ground. I am anticipating and contemplating that there should be a kind of policy that looks at adding on significantly in terms of numbers. For example, if you look at the population of KNUST and Legon and these other big universities like the University of Cape Coast, I mean, let's look at a facility that can, more facilities that can take in about 5,000 to 10,000, which means that we should see a lot of housing coming up on campus. And these universities have a lot of lands, and there is a need to begin to look at that. The government of Ghana should sit with the university administrators, should find a pathway to go, and it must be done as soon as practicable. It is important that our university administrators will not cower before government. They have to call a spade to let government know that, in fact, infrastructure is significant insofar as quality education is concerned. We cannot overlook that, and that should be on the table ASAP.
Okay.
To avoid some of
now,
these
I'm happy you mentioned quality, but quality comes at a cost. Let's look at the cost of education. Schools have reopened. Parents are going. Right from the basic school all the way to the university. Parents are crying that they are paying more than they know that they would be paying. The cost of education versus quality, must it be necessarily expensive for it to be good?
Yes, quality would come with some cost, but we have to look at the levels of cost that we are dealing with. Because when we treat education as a subject and we delink it from the economy, then it becomes a problem. When you have social mitigating factors, i.e. policies like the NHIS, policies like free education, among others that seek to, if you like, support the society to make sure that the direct cost they are going to bear is shouldered by the taxpayer, largely within a certain pool, right? Then there is a kind of money for precautionary, speculative motive, among other motives, because the individual is able to hold on to some money or have some value for money, and also is able to hold on to money to use in the future. If the economy is not doing well, if people are unemployed, if the farmers are, if there is structural unemployment, there is a question of inflation to the extent of galloping inflation from time to time, if there are challenges with the economy, then prices of items, commodities, among other issues, the payment of bills and other utilities and all that, if these aggregate, then parents will not be able to offer the kind of support they need to give beyond the net or the holiday, the financial holiday the government or the state gives to them. So we need to tie the economy, into education, because if the government supports, however it supports, and still family units do not have enough financial capacity to support themselves, then they cannot support and also meet the government halfway to deliver home the kind of resource we are looking for in terms of provisions that students will go to school with, sometimes money to continue to use other facilities, and not necessarily in the university and other institutions of learning, but for additional learning and other things might not be forthcoming. So these are some of the challenges, among other challenges, that parents and students, including pupils, will face, because parents do not have enough financial capacity to give the kind of support they would want to give to their children. However, we need to understand that if the basics and the fundamentals are right, we should be able to leverage on that. The African story, the quintessential African story, is very important. We have not always had the best of things, but we have heard individual biographies and stories of individuals who came from the hinterlands, who came from rough and patchy places in our land, but still were able to rise to the top. Why do we study some of these biographies? Why do we write some of these biographies? Why do we teach our students some of these things? And the social capital of Africa must be looked at in this broader discussion of education. We cannot begin to pamper ourselves today and say that government must take every responsibility, and then university administrators should take every responsibility. I think that students must be responsible, parents must be responsible. As a nation, we should come together and know that this is where we want to get to. We don't have everything together today, but there is a need to continue to soldier on until we get to the day where we can cross into our promised land. If we do not begin to look at it towards that angle, and we become overly pampered and begin to lay blames left, right, center, we are not going to be able to push forward and to forge ahead. But I agree with you in Tutu that there should be a kind of strong national policy that emphasizes continuous infrastructure, shifting towards technology, where you wouldn't need everyone to come to the university, but you can have people live in their villages. The telcos, those who are providing internet for us, it is too expensive in this country, and government must begin to deal with them. I wouldn't want to use certain words. It's early in the day. I'm provoked when I begin to talk about. Slow down. It is expensive. It is expensive, and government need not be in bed with them. Government need not be in bed with them, because if we are looking at quality education, government should begin to tell them that we can't pay what we are paying. We can't pay what we are paying for our internet. We can't pay what we are paying for our phone calls and all that. I still feel that there is some degree of profiteering, so far as that area is concerned. And government must begin to deal with them and to make sure that, especially for institutions of learning and for students who are going to school, they have the best of our internet, best of technology, among other things, to make sure we deliver on the quality that we are looking for.
Doc, now we had Vision 2020. 2020 just gone by. We missed the boat. We've done some work in them. We also, in our constitution, have the free, compulsory, universal basic education. You are talking about the basics and the fundamentals, and the fact that if we don't get that right, it means that we could be losing it all. The government of the day is pursuing a vigorous agenda for free SHS. But it starts from somewhere, the basic schools, before it gets to the free SHS and now to the university level. Where should we place our priority as a country? Free SHS, basic education?
It should be at the basic school. It should be at the basic school. I always tell my friends, I went to, Ludic International somewhere in Takrade, then joined Obri School, and then went to Chapel Hill at the junior high school. But fundamentally, when I bend back and I look at my days in Takrade, where I have to go to the library every 2 weeks and change books, I will read More Tales from Shakespeare, Lamb Tales from Shakespeare, Beggar's Strike. I read these books in junior high school. And the days in Takrade, I remember them with some degree of nostalgia, not because they are my childhood days, but they are the days I think I had the best in terms of my schooling, because it was highly competitive. I did some bit of literature at the junior high school, and so quality, concentration on quality should be at the basic school. Then it builds on to the senior high school. In our paper, the one I tagged,
right.
I tagged base with, we raised the question that if we do not ensure quality at the basic level, especially also at the senior high school level, we cannot, we don't hold a magic wand at the university. University education is strictly different from senior high school education. And therefore, our policymakers should not even try to also, try to alter, intellectual and academic freedom at the university level. Because if you produce, weak students and you bring them, you don't want to change university students, university lecturers into regular teachers at the senior high school. The rigor that comes with university education must remain so. And if we are not careful, because of the kind of quality that will come from the senior high school, then the policymakers will be interested in trying to, in a way, water down the system to make sure that we just give something to satisfy something. In my university days, when the Adeyeboys and the Wilhelminas and the others were teaching us, you would have to peruse the literature. You come in, you are given the pointers, you must be at the library reading. You must, I remember one time, Nana Adeyeboy, may the Lord keep you so, who tell us, oh, you are going to make photocopy of this man. You go and it's an entire book, economic history on Keynesian theory. And it's an entire book, sometimes over 100 pages. You have to read this undergraduate. And so when we begin to want to water down and we are discussing other issues these days, for me, I'm not amused at all. As if we just have to do something and move on. The kind of quality we want to ensure, the students who are coming from the senior high school must be well prepared. I went to Prempeh College. I know there are other equally good schools. Government has tried to build on and add on to infrastructure, science labs and all that. With this increasing number, government must be apt. Government must be committed to make sure that teachers are well remunerated, teachers are encouraged in terms of the necessary logistics that they will need to work at the senior high school level. All these things must be there.
Okay.
It should not be politics as usual.
Okay.
Because if they don't give us the kind of quality, we can't give Ghana the best that we anticipate.
And speaking of which, Doc, you're talking about the change. We do know that presently there's been a change in curriculum at the basic school, but they have no textbooks, and the last batch of students who wrote their BEC did not write their BEC with the benefit of a textbook. They are going back to school. Our understanding is that the textbooks are not ready. You say it's a chain, it's a continuous process. The quality must be ensured at the beginning so that it follows through. What are we doing at this point? Are we shooting ourselves in the foot? Are we in the right direction? Where are we going?
I've said that we cannot give up and say that we will not continue building. Nation building is a process and it's a continuum, as we've all agreed. However, we should know how we spend, when we spend, where we are placing what amount and which amount in terms of budgetary allocation, among other things. Basic things like chalk, basic things like textbooks that pupils and students will need must be provided. Government and the Ministry of Education cannot, absolve themselves from this. They must be responsible and must make sure that they deliver. We don't want to hear political talks. They must work with the directors of education and make sure they are working with the districts and deliver home the public good. We don't want praise singing. We don't want to hear that. Education is a serious business. And if these basic things are not provided, we are not going anywhere. Ghana has the resources. We have the money. The state must deliver. Anything below that is a disappointment and it's a failure on the part of government and on the part of those who have been appointed and risen to the occasion to perform their duties. And we cannot defend anyone on this score. Therefore, there is a need for government and the people who are committed to that to do so accordingly. Okay,
Doc, now you spoke about reading extensively. I remember that during my days in a basic school, secondary school, we used to go around and we used to read. We were actually giving a lot of literature, and Monday morning.
And we buy books. It was fun to buy books,
Yes, but where are the libraries? Ghana 60 years on, we said we were going to build a number of libraries across the country. Academics were excited. People who love to read were excited. We are in 2021. Where are the libraries?
I'm excited that you touch base with the library subject, and it's also in our paper. You cannot produce quality education without libraries, and we must begin to appreciate our librarians in the first instance, train more, and make sure that we also transition into technology, because libraries across the continent are looking at that. It's not only the hard bound, or if you like, paper books. We are also looking at digital libraries where we have information spreading across through the use of internet and technology and all that. And so we must begin to look at that. I think the library board and those who are called to these spaces must, everything is politics in this country, I must say. And I'm surprised. Yes, I know that you need the politics to distribute resources and all that. But when it comes to our libraries, we don't need to tell government that build library at Samra Boy, or build library at Ntankofol or Kwesmintim or Efiekuma, or I'm naming the places I know very
in
well.
Takrady and all of that.
Right. So you would want to make sure that library gets closer to the people, and we must be innovative enough to be able to provide libraries across the nook and cranny of this country. And it need not necessarily be gigantic, buildings, right? But there should be libraries across our communities. And when we have done so and include, if you like, stakeholders like the chiefs and the Odikros and all the others to spearhead some of these discussions we are having, you will have a reading population. Look, if you dare publish a book in this country, you run at a loss. And I'm telling you the truth.
Really?
We are not a reading nation. I'm telling you, we don't read. Look, I engage sometimes a lot, severally, our graduates who leave our universities, some of whom I would encourage to go back to school, and others I will ask which book they are reading. And unfortunately, it's amazing that whereas in other jurisdictions, people are ordering for books, they are paying either with their credit card or something every month or two, there is a book they want to read. We don't have that culture in this country. We don't have that culture in this country. We don't read. We are not a reading nation.
And what does that mean? What are we losing by not reading?
What it means is that we are not developing. What it means is that we don't understand a lot of issues we discuss, either on radio, television, within our society. We use internet, all right, but it's for other things. We don't engage very well. If you like, try Facebook, try other media, follow the kind of discussions that we have. We tickle ourselves that we are doing well in our democracy, we are doing well here and there. I'm telling you, we are not doing well at all. It is just the usual cheap propaganda, cheap politics, and cheap discussions. And sometimes you find people you want to have meat in their discussions and their writings, and you are disappointed, the kind of hocus pocus and gibberish that we read and hear about. It's largely as a result of the fact that people leave school and within 6 months to 1 year, they become unlettered because they become rusty, stale, among other things.
Is it not because of the pedagogical approach? We have altered our our curriculum at the basic level, and we want to have a sort of a seamless flow. Now you go to the secondary school, they are going to start running a semester system. And then it gets to the university where somebody knows somebody. If you are friends with a lecturer, those are wild allegations, by the way. Some have confirmed it, that if you are friends with a lecturer, you just go through the system doesn't go through you. Is it not something that we brought upon ourselves over time? Cronyism, nepotism, favoritism, that even within the academic circles is happening?
Let me share my personal view on this issue, my personal view. I think examinations are very important in the university system to authenticate the kind of certificates we give out. In KNS, for example, you go through, I've been an examinations officer before becoming an HOD, so I understand the system quite a bit. Our examination process goes through about 3 or 4 stages before, you have your results, and so nobody can change the results in KNUST, for example.
Okay.
It cannot be possible unless maybe you're a magician or something else. And so the examination is very sacred. So
Doc, you need to lift your head a bit for me.
Our examination is very sacred, right? So far as our institution is concerned, and we don't joke with it. Having said that, my personal view is that when students come to school, and all what we are looking for is for us to examine them, to separate, for a better one of the right word, the goats from the sheep. For me, it is disappointing. Because for me, we should not focus on examination. We should focus on quality in the sense of what individuals can assimilate, imbibe, interpret, and also critically evaluate themselves and use for their personal benefit and to also support their society. Anyone who can swallow hook, line, and sinker can come to school, do rote learning, memorize, and pass. Rote learning is part of learning anyway, but we cannot stay there. We need to look at analytical and critical thinking, and that is what we seek to do with the kind of teaching we are doing now, training ourselves, embracing ourselves for now and also in the foreseeable future. Critical thinking. But for critical thinking to suffice at especially the university level and the senior secondary school level, the teacher need not be someone who is spoon feeding. Okay. You can do that at the basic level, do that at the junior high school level to an extent, if you like. But at the senior high school level, we need not be scribbling notes on the board at this time of the day. I mean, I'm told that taking notes is part of learning, but I understand that it is not enough. Okay. We should allow students to be exposed to reading on their own. Let's give them the textbooks. Let's guide, coach, facilitate, even at the senior high school level. In the sciences level, let them have a lot of experiments. Okay. Let science knowledge and learning not be based on rote learning, cramming and all that, but it should be based on experiment so that you expose the text to the student. Let the process be based on experiment, theoretical approach to the experiment and the laboratory practical essence of it. Once the student goes through that process, he or she would own the subject on his own. Coming to the university, the candidate would enter with some level of independence to understand that that is the culture they've built on. And when they come to the first year, you see that they are largely clueless because the spoon feeding at the senior high school level is still up there. Right. And something must be done about it. Okay. There should be some degree of critical thinking, even at the university level. What I'm saying is that we should make sure that students are independent. We are facilitators and they are reading. Look, let me tell you my approach. Let me share my approach. Quickly. I come to the lecture hall or to the classroom to be sure that if I have 5 materials that we are reading for the next session, I have read my session and you ought to have read yours. If you have not done any reading, I am not into spoon feed you. I won't do it. I am an intellectual. I have an academic freedom and nobody can cause me to cower on that basis. Before you enter my lecture room, you should have done the readings that I've given for the lecture. Right. Simply said that we will not compromise on that basis. And you give this reading leads ahead, correct? Exactly, exactly. And we know that we are reading. It is it's a contract. My course outline is a contract for the semester. We come in and you have your part to play, I have my part to play. It is not on kids' gloves basis. We are training leaders for the future. And for me, the whole spoon feeding basis and the idea of basing everything on end of semester examination is where we got it. Would you say that some of our students or most of our students now are becoming lazy in terms of reading, such that, like you're saying, 6 months after school they become unlettered, and then if we go the way we are going, we're getting over 300,000 seats for WASI. Next year, another 300,000. The following year, another 300,000. The next 10 years, we will have graduates, but who may not have employable skills. Is that what we are looking at? No, I mean, the university gives you universal education. You must understand the bit that you pick from social statistics, from communication skills, from your economics, which is your major, or history or politics, and all that, places you into a certain center where you have the capacity to turn. You are malleable but not docile, because you can fit into a lot of spaces so far as the state is concerned. And that is university education, to stretch your imagination, your thinking, and your capacity to be creative.
Okay.
Once you have that, you should be able to fit in any social space and become employable.
But people complete the university.
So we give them employable skills.
Okay.
It is, as a matter of fact, the truth is that we must start based with what we have discussed earlier.
Okay.
If parents, if government would, and individuals will allow university teachers to be unfettered for us to do our job as it is, then when you leave the walls of the university, you cannot blame anyone. You blame yourself for your own laziness and your lack of preparedness. Right?
Well, let's switch 1 minute on this particular one. The president is getting ready, putting together names to announce for ministerial positions and all of that. The gender question has been thrown there, that if the president says he has the men, then he must have the women as well. For you, if you had one advice to give the president on who to go where, what to consider, what would you say before he makes that big announcement for who will be our minister, who will be our ministers?
I must say this in passing. I support quota system.
Okay.
Because of the kind of machoism and all the concepts we have. Look at what happened in parliament and all that. So I support quota system. I believe that we have good, wonderful, experienced women who must be given opportunities in this government in his second term. And he must begin to look at that. The men and the boys have tried. I think that they did not do very well. I mean, you can see they did not do well at all. That is why they've seen the kind of results they've seen. They should not tickle themselves. The performance of Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo in the first term was quite abysmal, because the expectation of the people, they were not met, and you should see that. Secondly, it's important that he goes beyond, and I do not say that was the picture of the first government, but he should go beyond friends, family, cronies, and bootlickers, and begin to look at individuals who have capacity and have spoken the truth. They've told him the truth in the private. Some years ago, he decided to put them aside, push them at the periphery, because he thought that these are not bedfellows. These are the people he will need in the second term to make the MPP remain relevant by 2024. I think this is what I can say about it.
Thank you. Dr. Samuel Adijemfi, as always, has been a good resource for us this morning. He is the head of the Political Science, History and Political Science Department of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. Doc, thank you very much for your time. We'll come and enjoy some of the fufu later. Good morning to Dr. Kenafri Mpon of the KNUST as well. And let's say a big thank you to Sona Fashions in Tamale for my outfit. 024-659-0162. Again, 024-659-0162. Happy birthday to the Honorable Ken Jirasa, lawyer, journalist, former Deputy Speaker of Parliament, businessman, former member of Parliament, and a father to many. Happy birthday, sir. And also to you, Mr. Koko Anyidoho. It's your birthday today. Happy birthday. If it's yours as well, happy birthday. We'll see you after the break. There's more conversation on reopening of schools. The children are going back to school. Your parents, you've been talking about the pricing of the fees at this point. We'll also be talking about a New Year school and some entertainment coming up. All of it plus sports here on New Day. Stay with us. We'll be right back.